Then we have, again, we have Joe and Steve from St. Pete Design, and we have Brad from Lighthouse, and everybody knows this.
Well, let me say this, I'm not being separatist, I'm just a creature of habit. This is my seat.
It is. Yeah, he's got this right here, this is his name right there. I'm gonna move that a little closer, I know how you like it.
I'll just move it back.
Give him the one that goes right there, the clip.
So, I gave this presentation to our human resources person, who is also our RMLO, and if you know about public records, you know the RMLO is the person that's supposed to keep track of all your public records requests. So this is a good segue. And so I gave this presentation to her yesterday, and I said, just as a layperson, can you come up with some questions so we can kind of start driving this panel and see how this turns out. And so here's a very interesting question that she asked me. What happens if we don't become compliant? What happens if we don't do it? What happens if we come in here today, we hear all this, we go back and we went, it's all good information, but I don't have the resources, I don't have the wherewithal, and I don't have the energy. I don't want to do it. What happens?
Is that for me?
It's for anybody, whoever wants to tackle it.
I mean, I would suggest that as long as you don't get sued, nothing will happen, but your likelihood of being sued goes up exponentially, especially like we talked about, Mr. Gilmore talked about, they're out there suing. So in my opinion, your chances of having an issue are very high.
Well, then financial ramifications from lawsuits, you're also excluding possible, clients or users or whatever you guys call them, or customers.
Visitors, yeah,
Visitor
clients.
You're telling, those people, you guys don't belong here, or you guys, we don't care about you guys, you don't need taxes and information.
That's a great point. Low vision users might not be able to access your website. People with other disabilities wouldn't be able to access your website. To me, that's the most important thing. That's what I've always done.
Other than the legal ramifications, I think it's what they said. And that is, as we talked about before, just about all of the housing authorities are trying to become paperless. So whatever you can do to, even for people with disabilities, to be able to access the forms and the applications and the information that you have online, I still think that's an important goal in and of itself. Obviously, I'm, going like this about be careful because there are lawsuits, but in the long run, it is the right thing to do, in my opinion.
All right, and from the paperless standpoint, our agency burns about 2 million pieces of paper a year. And so our goal is to try and make it as convenient as possible for our clients, our landlords, our tenants, our applicants to go to the website in their convenient time and complete forms so that we have them, they're accessible anytime, day or night. They can do them in the privacy of their home. We still have a lot of people that get on buses and come here to fill out a form or drive 35, 40 miles to go pick out a form. And in this day and age, that's a little crazy. So yeah, make it easier for everybody.
Let me ask a question. Who here still have people come physically when you open your web list? It's a madhouse.
Tampa?
People still come. We have all kinds of applications that can do almost everything online, but they still come.
I sat out in our waiting list. I was trying to put in a new system where we could manage the line. And I talked with Tampa Housing Authority. Basically come in, sign in, and the appointment's already scheduled. The person gets an email, they can go and sit down. And I sat out there for 2 or 3 days just to kind of put the science to how this is going to work for us. And there's no way there's so many different things that are happening on a day-to-day basis. The person that comes off the street, we had a guy sleeping on the bench over there yesterday because he wanted to get here at 8 o'clock so that he could come in and pick out a form. That guy. We had people that aren't on our program that wanted an application, and people looking for regular housing, and they make the mistake to come here just for, you know, market rate apartments, so it's a trial situation. You know, so I get why, we still have a stack of forms out there for everybody.
We can get going.
Yeah, did you guys wanna say something? Shannon, Dean?
I think the spirit of all of this is to make sure that, you know, we're giving the same experience to everybody. And so, long and short of it is, if it's not accessible, it's not the same experience, it's not helping everyone that you could.
Right. Okay, so then, this will go into the next question that Leslie, so, told me to ask, but how much did it cost, and how long did it take for us to go to a place where we are now? Right, so, we had the web development, and I have to say that it wasn't that expensive for a large agency like us. It didn't cost us a lot of money. Going forward, when we do, the next transition to merge, it's gonna be cheaper than getting sued. So that's definitely a part of it. How long did it take? The PDF part of it took the biggest chunk. And now that we've shared this, you don't have that learning curve, which is good. Now you only have to just go to work and do it, but, that was a big part of it. And you guys, it took a little bit of time to develop that first accessibility site, but it wasn't tremendous, right? It was just maybe a couple of weeks total. So, does anybody have an accessibility site out there now that they feel is pretty good? Tampa? And semi, I mean, how long did it take you to get to where you are now? How much did it cost?
Well, I did it myself, and it's a WordPress site, maybe 4 days.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so bad once you sit down on that road. And there's help. There's St. Pete Design, there are other providers out there, there's, Brooks Jeffrey. There are people out there that'll help you do what you need to do to get to that place.
I'd like to add that, you know, we give talks across the US, for accessibility, and the main point of that is really trying to explain how easy it actually is to build your sites accessible. If you do it from the beginning, it's so much easier than having to come back years later and remediate stuff, so, it seems way more daunting than the task actually is. And that's kind of the point of what we try to convey when we go across the US, is teaching developers and designers, you do it from the beginning, it's actually a very simple process.
So in the case where you guys took down your 2 sites, you're starting with a clean slate. You can go back and add these sites in a lot easier way than if you were gonna go and remediate.
And it's really not something extra that you're having to put into the website, it's just, you have to think about doing things the correct way.
Yeah.
The image tags and the labeled form field, those standards have always been there. We're just now starting to hear more about it in lawsuits, but it's just the right way to do it. Like you wouldn't type up a document and not spell check it, that's just something you have to do before you email somebody. With a website, you shouldn't put these things on a website and not do these things, it's just proper procedure.
Yeah, best practices.
Best practices, yeah.
I would say that in the last couple of years, even in the last year, there's been a lot more awareness about this. Whereas we were developing sites, I say we as web developers as a whole, were developing websites that were not compliant in the past. But now we realize that that's not sustainable. You can't continue to do it that way. So.
I wasn't here, so you may have talked about this. You said do it the right way from the beginning. Logos, John, how about this, difficulty with,
Well,
Pictures all together.
Yeah, labeling the logos and stuff.
so if you do it right from the beginning, then that's not a big issue with.
Yeah, it's not. And if you get into a practice every time you add something, because your website's constantly changing, it's dynamic, every time you go to do something, if you do it in the best practice way, then you have no hurdles. You're making that good faith effort to deliver a comparable experience to everybody. So this is a quick sample size of the state. Have you ever experienced anybody that raised a concern about being unable to obtain information that they need? Has anybody said, I can't get to this, I can't get to that?
They have since I took my PDFs down.
Well, now, yeah, but, you know, I thought that was interesting. Has anybody, well, nobody's raised a concern, so nobody's gone to a site and said, look, I can't get this information, please help me. Has that happened with you?
I mean, I got a phone call the other day from someone, she was requesting information, and, you know, I was giving her the information, I just kind of, I said, well, you know, all of this is actually on our website. She said, well, I'm really blind, and I can't really see, it's just better if I just.
Okay. And this goes back to what Joe was saying, you can kind of nip it in the bud a good percentage of the time by just tackling it
It was a
with
long
niceness.
phone- It was a long phone call, but.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot.
If you wouldn't have taken that hour or whatever it was for that individual, you probably would have some ramifications for that, so, I mean, I agree, it's about handling that situation right then and there.
And I think it's on two levels. One is someone who legitimately can't, access something we have, and they give you a courtesy of a call and say, I can't. The other is,
We already said his name when you weren't here, so we
Did
don't
you
know
say
his
the
name.
the other is the vortex we're in right now where, people are calling sites looking for the opportunity to challenge. I think it's on there's more than one level. All of it still leads to being compliant as in the best interest.
I would say that maybe a lot of you in the room have not gotten that phone call from someone who can't access parts of your site, but they're out there. When we attended the National Federation for Blind Convention, we met them, and they might not always call, maybe they just can't, they go to your site, they can't access the information, and they try to get it in a different way, maybe they get a friend to help them, something like that. So, they are out there, they're trying to access your sites probably, but you might not know it.
Yeah, I think in the restaurant business, they say for every one complaint, there was 5 people that had the same negative experience but didn't complain. It's just kind of the way it is.
So-
Chime in on that too. Part of that comes down to also setting up, user tab, especially if you have someone that's using an assistive technology, it can really help to catch that stuff ahead of time, especially through, establishing personas and being able to actually walk through various, user experiences that they need to do, you know. I'm going to your website, I need to find this information, I have a support animal, how do I know, you know, what laws or regulations you have for that? Being able to ask those questions ahead of time, find out how someone using assistive technology is gonna find that information, may help you spot errors before someone who needs it can.
Okay, yeah. User testing is important, and that's kind of, that lends itself to what we were talking about with the NVDA, right, and those screen readers, just as for your own reference, you can go home today, download this freeware, and run it on the site, and just gives you a sense of what visually impaired people are experiencing. And then you have, I will probably next week email all the housing authorities and all the contacts that I have, including, the ones that didn't show up, including you guys here, and I will send out all of this information that we've collected today, including the videos, and the 11 list and the resources and all of the stuff that's in paper form today. So not to worry. This is supposed to be a sharing event, so do you have any good questions or bad questions? I'll take that. Is there anything that you guys want to address that we haven't talked about? That you want to bring up? No?
Hugo, if I may, I would like to add that during the process of our website build, we test and retest with audit tools to make sure that also have one of our coworkers is blind, and we provide her with the specific scenarios that Dean was talking about. And from that experience, we glean a lot of information that had we not had that discussion with Sarah, the coworker, we really wouldn't understand the details of her experience. So I would suggest that if a housing authority has someone that is visually impaired or blind or differently able, ask them to participate with your site and see what their experience is. It can help you really better that user experience for them.
Cool. I have a question. Of those of you who are here, how many of you have looked at compliance? Of those of you who are here, how many of you have looked at compliance and decided it's too expensive or too complicated to deal?
They haven't looked at compliance?
No,
They haven't
Maybe so,
decided.
They have looked at
They
compliance.
have, and decided to.
Decided it's either too expensive or too complicated to deal with.
We have PDFs, we probably have 500, maybe more PDFs. And, the directors, I would say the directors, more the executives, are not, that concerned about it. But of course, the IT department is, and we have a compliance pop-up that comes up on the site, that says, if you have any trouble, like you were mentioning before, contact this number. But I see it kind of falling on me as the PDFs come in, just to check them for compliance. Now, as far as getting them fully compliant, like, sometimes what they like to do, they like to go over to the copier, they'll scan a bunch of documents, stick it in a PDF. That'll never be compliant unless, but I did get that tip there with, using the OCR.
Yeah.
Maybe you can convert it, I'm gonna try it, but those are not compliant. So I guess to answer your question, it's more, they've decided it's not worth the trouble of going through all the PDFs, and they don't wanna take them down. And I certainly don't have the time to go through, hundreds of them.
I know.
So that's the situation we're in. I don't have the authority to say, sorry, it doesn't comply, I'm not putting it up.
It's okay, I think I know your executives.
I feel like it's above my expertise, so I definitely know I'm gonna have to pay to get it done. What?
For small, that's why I keep saying, for smaller agencies, in my
Alright, Bill.
opinion, it's a bigger issue. Cause you don't have internal, to put on. Somebody, I don't know if it came up today, somebody, I'm sure, was saying that they created a second site.
Yeah.
That's you, did you already talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we created the second set. But that's interesting because they're the larger agencies, you're talking about the smaller ones that don't have the resources.
So we went through the website, that's all compliant. I tagged all the images, made sure I converted anything that was an image to HTML, screen readers, so all, the site's perfect, it's just the PDFs.
Yeah, but y'all.
Y'all got more money than
Good
anybody in the room.
agency.
I'm just saying. Y'all got more money than anybody in the room, and y'all ain't doing it?
I don't get to spend it.
Nothing, because you're blowing the whole premise is, the big dogs need to really be in here.
Yeah, you're right.
More money.
Uh,
Right, can I get a loan so I can
My
make
director
people
and I
buy it?
talked to them, tried to get them to,
Yeah, like I said, I know your executive, so I'll try to.
And we know he uses the internet, so.
I mean, they wanted the pop-up, they came up with that, they had these ideas, and we did that. But as far as going through all the PDFs, it's not possible. We have too many of them, and people are allowed, individual departments are allowed to control their content, so if they want something up, I don't have the authority to say, nope, I'm not putting it up for you. So, there's a,
What
You
about?
need to do
what
a
about putting
disclaimer
it
for
up in a
yourself.
different way?
You need to have them sign a disclaimer for you.
Yeah, what about putting it up in a different way?
I scan them, I make sure all the titles, I do everything I can do, but as far as recreating the document, taking all the
Yeah.
tables, I don't have time to do that, so So I'm working with the director, we're trying to get them to be more aware of this, you know.
I
just-
may send something else out, because in my opinion, when they come for y'all, they're coming
Y'all
for
need
the
new
big
legal
dogs
counsel.
first.
Yeah.
So it's won't be pretty at that point.
Yeah, cause y'all got all that money in that nonprofit.
Yeah, I don't really
Just
know how
saying.
that's, just because, yeah. Don't wanna be left.
I don't know the legal ramifications of it, but I mentioned it earlier, maybe you can, seminar a little bit about putting something before your PDF saying, if you need help with this, call and give your office phone number. So then, at least at that point, it is accessible, because they can make that call, and it sucks, but it's better than the alternatives. You have an individual in your office walking through it. I think somebody here said that they've done that already.
That would satisfy a user who actually wants the document and wants to be able to use it.
Right.
It will not satisfy somebody who's just looking for a paycheck. That's true.
Yeah,
That's
this,
why I went like this, that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, good faith thing.
I think what Joe's referring to is, like, when I cut this out of the section 508 site, section 508 requires these agencies to use ICT so people with disabilities have comparable access as those without. And it doesn't say same. And if we, I brought this to your attention before, if we show good faith effort,
Yeah, but.
we've tried.
I agree, you need to show a good faith effort, but to your scenario, the reason why I started shaking my head, not just if someone's looking to sue you. If it's, midnight and I need this information, who am I gonna call at midnight? Who am I gonna call on the weekend for that clarity? So it doesn't, I don't think it comes clean in the wash. It's a halfway measure. It's better than what you had, and if you want to chance it, try that, that's fine. But in today's climate, I don't see that being either fair or protected.
So what about also offering an email option with the phone number? Just after hours, you email and we'll call you.
You're gonna have somebody man that?
Well, Shannon,
Yes.
Reasonable.
We do actually have a 24/7 manned phone, and in our accessibility statements that we place on the websites that we build, we suggest that if someone does have, problems with content or questions or difficulty in finding something, that they can call that phone number at any time, and that it is manned. We receive very few calls, but, on occasion we'll receive something, and if we are, again, looking for ways to always improve things, so if someone does have, a question about content, we will get the information to them, assist them in any way we can, and then report back to the client the next business day what the, question was, and we'll try to mitigate that on the site. I'd like to say one more thing about the PDF conversion and remediation. It's a pretty large learning curve. We too had to, train our staff, and there are some very low cost and free, certification programs. It does require time, and I know that's precious and expensive, but, there's one from Wave that is a document conversion and PDF remediation course, and you end up with a certification at the end. We have several of our content managers that have gone through that course. It's very helpful. Adobe Pro actually has a series of webinars and videos that can coach someone through the process. And while I'm sure it seems daunting to create all new PDFs, whether you're scanning and trying to get rid of those artifacts and scans and make those work, or build from scratch, it's interesting, but we found that a fillable PDF is truly the best accessible tool that we can provide end users.
Especially for blind users, because in the end, if they can form, even if they can read it, if they can't fill it out, they're gonna have to print it anyway. So without it being fillable, they're not really able to give it back to you once they've got their hands on it.
For those resources, Hugo, I'll be glad to send you that list, that we provide, to our clients that do
stuff next week and send it out, then I will include that in that too.
Very good.
Do we have anything else? Are we all good?
I have a question.
Sure.
So that you made two separate sites, is it, do you think that's the best way to make a separate site, or if this is on a current site?
In my opinion, now, one site. One site, accessible for all. It's simple, accessible, done. Because you don't wanna go through what I did with this, we have to post this piece of news, this news article, we gotta do it here, and we gotta do it there. You know,
Can you show us one when you converted it to not?
The OCR, sure. So, what I did, now again, this is an old version, this is an old computer with an old version of Acrobat on it.
And so why do you look at this OCR a long time ago? It was difficult. Is it easy?
It's-
Easy to-
So this, I explained this
You have to
version.
go through and see whether,
Yeah, this version I have is about 12 to 15 years old. This version is very old, this is not a current version. The version I have on my desk is, and, so as you can see again, this is a picture version of a PDF. And all I do really, is come to this function. Now, I own this version of Acrobat, so it's important to distinguish that from the one you download. You have to pay for this feature. But if you do that, then you just recognize the text using OCR and you hit OK, and you see it gyrates for a little bit, and then once it's done, you actually saw it shift and now it's more horizontal, but I can select, but you can see, look how, this is interesting to point out. Think about the screen reader. So right now, it's gonna read the logo and it's gonna read that header, but then look at what it's gonna read next. It's gonna read provide. It's gonna skip over all that vendor information and those nodes, and it's gonna start to come down and hit provide storage. So even though it's found a lot of the words in here, it hasn't put them in the right order. The newer versions do a better job of it than this older version, but that's all I did was just click, scan, recognize OCR, and then save it. I mean,
With
that,
those OCRs, I mean, the document has to be very, very clean for
Yeah.
everything that you're looking for. So, it's definitely a step in the right direction, but it's
yeah,
kind of getting step. Cause then you have to go through and, tag everything and get the reading order, like you were just saying,
yeah.
is correct. There can still be a bit that you have to do afterwards.
Yeah, just because it's readable doesn't mean it's compliant.
but
And
the
it
scan
has
is,
perhaps like,
that's the easiest.
and the artifacts, you gave the special characters on them. So that's a big thing to worry about if you have a scanner that's put like lines on a page. When you actually use the OCR, it'll create like underlines or dashes. And most, blind users that have gone through occupational therapy or the training for, their use of these, assistive technologies, they'll actually turn off all those special characters anyway, but without, you'll end up with a document that says dash like 16, 20 times.
Yeah.
So, part of that is being able to go through that document, remove those blocks or special characters.
Right, you can say something.
Yeah, the enhanced scan or the optical character recognition is a good solution for somebody who's just wanting to scan a document in and get it, bare minimum accessible.
Yeah.
It's not the, it's bare minimum, it works, it'll work in most circumstances, but, there are some things you have to do, but for documents that your coworkers are scanning in, at least make sure they know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, how many people have copiers and they're scanning and they don't know that they're recognizing the text on the scans when they bring them in? My guess is a lot of people. So some of the newer copiers do it dynamically, and they ask us when you bring them into the building, but if you don't actively know to ask, they might just have that feature off. Any other questions?
I just have a silly question maybe, I don't know. PDFs, I mean, are there sites, and I don't know if WordPress does it, that I could upload just a simple Word document, which is what my form originally was? Is there a reason that Word documents don't get converted to the, I mean, cause we're talking PDFs, and I know all my documents were originally Word documents, and then we turned them into PDFs to put them on the website. Is there a functionality that allows us to put the Word document on, and would we still have the reader issue?
Word documents are just by their nature accessible. The problem with putting a Word document up on your website is that people can make changes to it.
Right.
That's why we use PDFs.
Okay,
So
that
people
makes
can
sense.
easily make changes to it.
Gotcha.
Word,
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Word document does have a feature, I can't think of the name right now, I've used it before, when you create a Word document.
You can protect it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it'll shut editing off, but it'll almost create a new page with that document that's accessible, so you can just put a link in your site, so when someone clicks that, it'll open up a separate tab with that Word document in there that's accessible. I'm not sure what level of accessibility that'll take you, but it's better than some of the things that we've seen.
Right. Because I mean, in theory, if I had my Word documents on OneDrive, I could put links to the actual document. I'm just trying to, I
Well,
just
the
wondered
other-
if there was a workaround.
The other thought is just to create a page that has no PDFs or Word doc. Take that information that's in the document and just put it on a web page.
Well, like, because what my PDFs are forms that the participants need, change forms,
Yep,
vacate forms,
Yep.
you know, just random forms.
that's what it is for us, that's what it
Yeah,
is for everybody.
That's, I mean, 'cause I don't put my board meeting minutes and all that on there, I just, for me, it's
That
forms.
course I was talking about earlier, that's free of charge from Wave, it has a special, focus, Word documents, Excel, PowerPoint, and then of course it does touch on PDF as well. But they go through, how to convert those accessible documents.
The other half of that is, if you create a Word document, it assumes that the person who's opening it has access to Office.
Yeah.
Without having access to Office, they may not be able to open it at all, whereas the PDF readers and fillable forms at least are available for free, and Chrome even has built-in PDF reading capabilities, so you don't have to have anything.
Right.
I guess just bear that in mind, and there are, like Janet was saying, remediation steps for every Office project.
Any other questions? No? Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I hope you learned something. As I said, I'm gonna send out all of the information that we discussed today in various formats so that you'll have access to it electronically. The one thing I would like to point out is this PowerPoint presentation is section 508 compliant. I worked really hard. Every picture is labeled, well, I don't wanna say it's section 5, I did my best. But thank you all for coming, have safe travels.